lot of work and effort and thought into making this happen. So this absolutely is not going to be possible unless you all decided to take out your day to be here today. So thank you for supporting us in this effort. Want to make some quick acknowledgments, and we have the councilwoman here. She'll be speaking here in a moment. I'll put some pressure on her to do her great thing that she does. Y'all know how awesome Nikki is, our councilwoman. She looked at me like, yeah, just messing with her. So also, we'll make some acknowledgments. We have, as host today, it's myself, OKC Black East of Paula Woods. And so Quentin Hughes, Northeast Oklahoma City Renaissance. Also Aisha Lockport from Renaissance as well. If you are a member of the board or a volunteer with the Renaissance, if you could just kind of wave your hand so we can see who you are. They're probably over there. Got one over there. Got Mr. Greg Jones here too. So let's get started. So if y'all have seen the videos and the information we posted, we decided that it was important for our community to engage in all the great developments that are happening in Northeast Oklahoma City. There's a lot of opinions and misconceptions, so we're taking it from this perspective. Yes, you're going to hear the word gentrification, but let's reframe that. We're going to frame it in the context of this is an opportunity for us to work with other partners, within stakeholders that are living in Northeast Oklahoma City, as well as those who are invested into the growth of Oklahoma City to engage in building. We have a lot of great ideas. I know you have a lot of great ideas. So why not come and hear some information, some great speakers as we go forward in building Northeast Oklahoma City together. And I will introduce our representative from the University of Oklahoma Oklahoma City Campus Health Science Center, and there's like a bunch of other stuff. Jean, Rainbow Graduate School. I'll let Megan come up and do her part, and then we'll get the agenda started for today.
Welcome, everyone. I'm Megan Allen. I'm Director of Admissions and Recruiting for OU's MBA programs, Master of Business Administration. So to kind of further on what he was saying about who we are and why we're here, we are the University of Oklahoma Jean Rainbow Graduate School of Business. So we do fall under the Michael F. Price College of Business. The main area for that college is in Norman, but a few years ago, our dean and faculty members made the strategic decision to move our MBA programs up here to Oklahoma City. If you think about it, it just makes better sense for students studying graduate business education to be in Oklahoma City. We have so many more opportunities to network with folks like you, with business leaders and the business community in Oklahoma City. Opportunities that are available to our students that just would not be if we were still on the Norman campus. That's actually the first time in the university's history that we've transplanted a program completely from Norman to Oklahoma City. So we are on the University Research Park. Technically, we're not part of the Health Sciences Center, but we are partners with them. And we work a lot with their student affairs and engage with them almost constantly. And the vision for this space, in addition to bringing the MBA programs up here, was also to provide a place for industry to engage with academia and vice versa. We wanted to be available to the business community, to organizations like yours. So, we have a policy that we open the doors to this space for organizations, companies to use at almost no cost. We have a small admin fee, but other than that, it is completely free for folks to use. And we've had, probably 8 times more companies and organizations that have come to use our space than have ever darkened the doors at Price Hall in Norman. So really excited to have this space available to you. The build out is, the third floor is 27,000 square feet. The entire build out was paid for through corporate and private donations, so no public dollars or tuition dollars went into funding this space. We opened in 2017, so we're about to finish our second academic year here, and we, like I said, have our full-time and professional MBA programs in this space. So full-time, that's really geared for folks earlier on in their career. They have the opportunity to kind of go to school full-time and really kind of focus on career management. Professional MBA, meant for folks who are a little bit further along in their career. They can do it all at night. So both both programs are here. We do offer certificates in entrepreneurship and other areas, but if you're interested in that, you can get my contact information. We can have that conversation another time. But again, just wanted to welcome you to this space, and if you have any questions, feel free to shoot me an email, give me a phone call. I'd be happy to be available for you. But most importantly, welcome. So glad you're here, and thank you.
All right, so we're going to get started. So if you have an agenda, we made a little bit of an adjustment. So as you see, originally it was going to be Mr. David Lloyd and then Ms. Cathy O'Connor. We made that swap. But next I'm going to let our councilwoman come up and do give her a few minutes to talk and do her thing that she does and welcome us and tell us some of the exciting things that she sees that are going to be happening here in Northeast Oklahoma City.
Well, first of all, good morning. Good morning. Y'all, it's early. So I appreciate you all for being here this early as well. And what a beautiful campus to be on to talk about some of the development that's happening within our community. And representing Ward 7, representing this area where you sit, it is an honor to serve the communities that sit within this ward. And if you are unaware how large Ward 7 is, I found out when I was running just how big it was. It's 130 square miles of 620 square miles of Oklahoma City. So obviously we have a really, really large area. So we stretch all the way up north to about 192nd and Western, which is about Danforth and Western. And we capture the east side of Western when you get to Memorial. So we get to Costco. So when you go to Costco, you are in Ward 7. And then you take that all the way down to Wilshire. And when you get to Wilshire, you go into around the Kelly area and Lincoln area and follow that all the way down some more. And you go down south to southeast 44th and Bryant, to southwest 44th and Shields, and we go east to Luther Jones. So within that, we are looking at about, let's see, 4 different municipalities that sit within the ward. We're looking at 7 senators that sit and have a piece of Ward 7. We have 9 representatives that have a piece of Ward 7. And it is a very active ward, as you all know, sitting with the Innovation District, sitting with the Adventure District, just sitting with Bricktown, Deep Deuce. There is a lot of development happening. And one of the things that I can say about the development that's happening is we want to make sure that our communities are involved. We want to make sure our communities are engaged in the process of whatever this development is going to be. And I think it's important for us as the communities to make sure that we understand when we are developing how it will reflect upon the community and how important it is to engage in conversations and also to understand just the history of the community that you may be representing as far as deciding to develop in. And I think that's where in some places we may lack just a little bit. When you have a lot of things that have been happening, even when we're talking about our this whole Pathways to Greatness and that school structure, you know, obviously some of us who may serve or may not serve or just moved here or lived here all our lives, you may not know the history of some of these neighborhoods that sit within where these schools are located. So I think it's important for us to understand that history, and I know you're going to hear some more about that today from Miss Anita Arnold and just the placemaking in general. But today is a day for us to gather all the information, and it's I thank the Northeast Renaissance for having this conference today. I know we, in the past few months, since I've been elected, we've been having a few of the conversations as well, because it is important, again, for us to start the conversation to make sure we are working together, collectively together, because it's time out for us to do things apart. But because as you see, our communities are stagnant because of that. And we must grow where we are. And it's gonna take all of us in this room, and it's gonna take all of us who know people that can help in that process as well to make this happen. And with that, I do want to let you know about some other things that are happening. We are talking about how to do business with the city of Oklahoma City, and that's a full conversation that's going to happen on April the 2nd, and that's from 9 to 11 a.m., and that's going to be at the Oklahoma Zoo Education Center. So I hope you can come out. Just take a couple of hours out of your morning, and we'll make sure we start on time and end on time. I promise. Okay. So I heard but I promise I'm gonna get you out there. I heard that, but I promise. I'm usually good about that. If you've been to a couple of the forums that we've had, I'll make sure we get in and out on time. So please come out. We're going to be talking about accessing the list of projects that the city offers, as well as how to become a pre-qualified vendor with the city, and the electronic bid submission process. So if you know someone who can be a part of that process, we want to make sure we're engaging in the conversation, passing on that information, so that way we can pass it on to others. And so we're going to have David Adcock, he's going to be talking about the permitting process of the Director of Public Works. Eric Winger is going to be talking about the engineering process, and also Amy Simpson, she's going to be talking about purchasing. So just keep all those things in mind, and also you're going to hear a lot of other terms today, so just keep in mind, again, as I was telling you how active Ward 7 is, we have about 6 active TIFs that are happening, tax increment finance districts, so just kind of engage in that, and we have a couple of opportunity zones that are also within some areas of the community, and a lot of development. So what I would like to see is people that are of our age groups coming and talking about development. And I'll say the people that I have talked to thus far about development, they don't look like the communities in which they are building. And that's something that we need to just make sure, again, we're having the conversation and we're engaging everyone we know. It's not necessary that they have to look like us in order to be a part of the development process, but we want to make sure we're still continuing to connect each other at the end of the day. So I thank you for being here again. If I can answer any questions for you, please feel free to give my office a call. The number is 405-297-2569. And if you just want to call and say, hey, you can do that. And we meet at City Hall for City Council every other Tuesday. So this coming Tuesday, we'll be there at 8:30. So if you just want to come here, a City Council meeting to see some of the things we talk about, hear some of the things we talk about, please feel free to do that. And come visit us. The address is 200 North Walker. We're on the 3rd floor. And my email address is ward7@okc.gov. And I'll be here for most of the morning. So again, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Councilwoman. So for the second time, and I think the presenters might like this, so we're going to shave about 5 minutes off of your time so we can catch up. If you're okay with that.
We'll see how it goes.
Okay. But you know, if you need the whole time, you can definitely take it. But we're going to try to save off some time to catch up in the morning so we can get you out here on time. It's going to be a fairly long day. I don't know about y'all, but after this is over, I'm going to be looking forward to relaxing and enjoying myself in the 4:30 hour. Y'all looked at the agenda. So now we're going to get started. Now here's where all the good stuff starts. So we are fortunate to have Ms. Cathy O'Connor. She is the president and CEO of the Alliance of Economic Development here in Oklahoma City. She has some information she wants to share with us. So if you all would please give her a round of applause as she comes up.
So thank you all for being here this morning. I want to thank Councilwoman Nice for all of the community forums that she's had since she was elected. It really has been great to see all the turnout and see how many people are interested in moving things forward in Northeast Oklahoma City. I also want to thank the Northeast Renaissance Group. It's great to have a group in the community that's able to convene people who are like-minded and really want to try to work on making projects happen and are interested in how that process works and how we can all work together. I am the president of the Alliance for Economic Development. We are an entity that was created in 2011 to organize and manage all of the public agencies that are involved in either economic development or redevelopment. So we run a whole bunch of different public trusts and authorities, and I think I may have taken the list out to try to cut down on some slides. But some of the entities that we run are urban renewal. We manage all the city's TIF districts. We help the city manage their job creation program. So we're involved in a lot of the different activities that have to do with economic development. The purpose for combining all of these entities together was to try to streamline services and make it a one-stop shop for people that are interested in doing business, at least development business with the city. So again, these are some of the things that we manage on behalf of the city: tax increment financing districts, the general obligation limited tax bond program, which is a whole lot of words to say it's our job creation program. We manage the city's retail strategy and incentives, so we've worked on deals like Bass Pro Shops and Costco and the Outlet Mall. We run the city's urban renewal programs. We help with the creation of sites for large job creation projects. And we also work on public-private partnerships that are the result of the MAPS projects. So what I really wanted to talk about today are some of the things that we work on in Northeast Oklahoma City. Now, I'm not telling anybody anything they don't know. Urban renewal has been involved in Northeast Oklahoma City for a long time. Some of that not really great, and we know that when we walk into the room, we carry that legacy with us. So since I've been at the Alliance, one of the things that we've really tried to do is to increase the activity and the velocity of development. You know, we are supposed to be a redevelopment agency. So the idea is to, you know, the property that we've purchased through the years, get it redeveloped. Work with the community to get houses built, to get commercial development to happen. So we've been very active in trying to build a lot more single-family homes. And I'm gonna say something about single-family home ownership in a minute. But this is a map that just kind of shows you some of the urban renewal areas and some of the areas where we've really been focused. All of the little blue dots on this map are pieces of property that we already have under an urban renewal agreement. The ones that are in orange or dark orange are parcels that we can't develop because they don't have adequate infrastructure or they are adjacent to an oil well. So we have a little bit of a challenge with the oil and gas industry. You know, you all know there's pump jacks and wells all through Northeast Oklahoma City, not, you know, in other parts of the city as well. So I'm gonna go to the next slide. This is kind of an area where we are really trying to concentrate investment, especially single-family home development. This is part of a strategic neighborhood initiative area. It's Culberson's East Highland. So it's a city program that has focused some city resources in this area. So we've been really trying to focus urban renewals efforts in this area as well. So we have several homes under construction. We have some requests for proposals out right now that we'll talk about in a minute. And there's been already been some development in the area. The dark purple are some houses that were already built. The blue are some active houses, some housing that we're building right now. The ones on the north side of Euclid, we finished just a few weeks ago, so all of those are complete. They've been sold. And that was a project that we worked on, again, with the city of Oklahoma City to build affordable housing. So they are for sale home ownership houses, and the way that they were made affordable isn't by building a cheap house, but by providing additional down payment assistance to the purchasers. So we have 3 more of those homes to build on the south side of Euclid. So we'll be looking for qualified buyers to purchase those. And then we also have the ability to build a couple market rate. So just as an overview, and I know some of you are, Monique and her sister have been some of our single family home developers. David and his family in the past have been. So we have about 200 residential lots in the JFK area. We have 35 properties that are either recently completed or they're in the process of having homes built on them. We sell our lots for less than market value. That's one of the ways that we help to subsidize and speed up development of homes in Northeast Oklahoma City. So our lots sell for 60 cents a square foot. The average lot size is about 7,000 square feet. So if you do the math, we sell a lot for about $4,000, $4,500, something like that. So pretty inexpensive. And again, a way for us to try to get rid of some of this inventory and get homes built back in the community. And our land inventory, all of this is available on the city's, on the Urban Renewal website. We have a map, we have a property inventory, and we have all of our current RFPs that are out. Now the residential RFP is open. We just leave it open. There's no deadline. You just call us or come and email us and let us know you're interested in some lots, and we begin working with you. We try to make the process easy. I know that sometimes public processes are not particularly easy, but we've tried to make it as easy as we can, understanding that this is public property and we have to have a pretty open, transparent process. So one of the things that we did several years ago is that we began a design review process to put into place design guidelines. What we were seeing is people building houses in neighborhoods that didn't quite fit in with the existing houses on that street. So we'd get some like really funky looking stuff next to really traditional little bungalows, and that really doesn't help property values in the long run. So what we really, you can build a modern house. We don't care if it's got an open floor plan and all the great new amenities, but we want it to blend in with the other houses on the street. So we did develop design standards. They were adopted in 2015. Now there are some areas, unfortunately, in Northeast Oklahoma City where there aren't very many houses left on the block. So we have allowed some contemporary homes to be built in those areas. But for the most part, we're really trying to fill back in with the more traditional style bungalows. And it really just kind of depends on where the neighborhood is. Some of the houses, some of the areas have little brick homes, others don't. So we really try to blend it back in. And these are the houses that we built on the south side of Euclid. Again, these were all affordable houses. They sold for around $130,000 each. Some of them were a little bit less, some were a little bit more, depending on how big they were. The third one we actually closed on this past week. So all of these houses have now been sold. These are some houses that Jeff Click is building on 16th Street. Again, this is one of those places where he could build really contemporary houses, and they are very contemporary. I don't know. Anyway, I live in a 100-year-old house, and I'm just not, just like, okay.
What's the square footage of these homes?
The first group, the ones on Euclid, ranged from about 1,200 to 1,600 square feet, I think. And I can't remember how big Jeff's are. I'd have to go back and look. But I think they're 1,600 to 2,200. They're probably a little bit bigger. And he did close on one of these on Friday. Monarch Property Group have built several homes with Urban Renewal. This is one that was recently completed. They have some that are under construction on 8th Street, and they also built some duplexes. I don't know, here's the duplexes. These are on the corner of Northeast 6th and Lottie. I think they originally built these to live in them, and then they ended up selling all of them. So, a great example of the kind of interest that there is in Northeast Oklahoma City. I think that this is a really nice example of something where it fits in with the neighborhood, it's modern, but a really successful project. This site was owned by Urban Renewal. It was the site of a former candy factory, so it had some environmental problems. Urban Renewal cleaned up the site for the developers before they began building the houses. So we recognize that some of these sites may have environmental issues, and you know, this is true throughout the kind of the developed part, the more urban, original part of Oklahoma City. It seems like there was a gas station or a dry cleaner on every corner, and we deal with it everywhere, and downtown is especially bad. But so we do have the ability to help developers clean up environmental problems if we come across them. So one of the other things that we do is we have acquired some sites for commercial development. They're along major commercial corridors. So those we use a request for proposal process, an RFP process, to solicit interest from developers who might want to build a project on those. We have several RFPs that are open right now. Again, you can go to our website and look at them. And most of the property is there's some along 23rd Street. We have one open for 16th and MLK. We also have several parcels at 24th and MLK on the west side of Martin Luther King. So how this happens is we issue an RFP and it has a deadline. March 31st, June 30th, we set a deadline. And prospective developers submit proposals to purchase the land and redevelop the property. There's criteria for each development that are in each RFP, and they can differ depending on how big the site is and what we think the best use is. Once we have selected, we receive the RFPs. If we get more than one, we have to have a selection committee meeting. So a group of people get together and they look at all the proposals and they decide which one they think is going to be the best, the most successful, fits in best with the community. And then we designate that developer the conditional redeveloper, and we go into a more extensive process of reviewing plans, making sure they have the financial capacity to carry out the project, and set timelines for the beginning and the end of construction. So it is a process, but again, this is public property that was purchased with public funds. So we try to make sure that we have an open process, that we talk about all this in public meetings. So it's all very transparent. So our RFPs that we have open right now, we have one in downtown Oklahoma City for some parcels along the Oklahoma City Boulevard, just south of the Chesapeake Arena. In Northeast Oklahoma City, we have quite a few more, and this is just a list of those addresses. Again, like I mentioned, most of them are along Northeast 23rd Street. So 23rd and Fonchel, 23rd and Prospect, 24th and MLK, 23rd and Glen Ellen. So we have been trying to buy some things that we felt were a blight on the community or an eyesore. There's a piece of property, and I hope I'm not offending anybody. There's a piece of property just west of the Tinker Federal Credit Union that we purchased recently, two different parcels that had a lot of junk and stuff stored on them, so we've cleaned those up, and we'll be doing some more cleanup over there in the next few weeks. So we do try to identify some sites that are a problem and take care of that. Trying to go fast because I'm supposed to make up time, I'm probably not. These are the sites that we own at 24th and MLK in the red. The purple is the development that the Pivot Project is doing at 23rd and Rhode Island, just to give you some perspective on where all these things are located, although you probably know. This is just a snapshot of our our webpage where you can find the land inventory. We do own some single-family lots north of 23rd Street. As we created the Northeast Renaissance Tax Increment Financing District, we did begin to get some lots through the county up there. So we do have some homes that, you could build a house north of 23rd Street as well, like this is the point of that. Again, this is our land inventory page. You can click on a particular parcel and it'll tell you about that parcel, the size and all those kinds of things. The next thing I wanted to talk to you about is something that Councilwoman Nice mentioned, and that's opportunity zones. So the Opportunity Zone program is a new federal tax break that is designed to encourage people who have experienced a capital gain to invest those gains in low-income communities. Now, this is not a city program, this isn't a state program, so we're not making up the rules. And frankly, the federal government hasn't issued all the rules yet, so we're still kind of trying to figure it out. We hope that they'll be out soon. So what it does is it allows investors to defer capital gains, as well as permanently exclude from taxable income any gains on the sale or the exchange of a property that's in an opportunity zone. So it can be a fairly substantial tax incentive for investors, and all of the census tracts that were designated as opportunity zones had to be low-income communities. So Oklahoma City had the opportunity to identify, I'll go through that in a minute, had the opportunity to identify about 19 census tracts that would be eligible for this program. And I will tell you, we had a whole lot more than just 19 that could have been eligible. But because of the way the program works, you can only designate 25% of your eligible tracts, and we had to take guidance from the state, so we were only able to designate 19. Several of those are in Northeast Oklahoma City. They include the Adventure District, Northeast 23rd, the Innovation District. So we do have a fairly high concentration of census tracts that include Northeast 23rd Street. And part of the reason why we did that is because we feel this area is ripe for investment. That because of some of the rules associated with the program, there are some pretty strict time limitations. So you really need to have a project that's ready to go or that will take place within the next couple of years in order to really see the full benefit of the program. So this is just some of the rules around it. You get a temporary deferral of capital gains taxes up to December 31st, 2026. There is a step-up basis, so the longer you leave your investment in an opportunity zone fund, the more increase in basis or reduction in taxes that you get. And then any gain on that investment, once you place it in a fund that invests in a project, the income from that gain is excluded from taxation for 10 years. So you have to leave it in for 10 years and then it's permanently excluded from taxes. So a pretty good investment. This is a map of the zones, so you can see that several of them are in Northeast Oklahoma City. We have one that stretches down I-35. We have one that includes Crossroads Mall, probably for obvious reasons. We'd really like to see something happen with Crossroads. And then there's a census tract out in Oklahoma County that is not in the city limits. So what is the role of the Alliance in all of this? So we've been leading the team that helped to identify the census tracts, and that included people from the City Planning Department, the Oklahoma Department of Commerce, some investors and lawyers had to be involved, so we don't get away from our attorneys too often. So then we made a recommendation to the governor's office. The governor designated the zones. So now what we are doing is working with the mayor and a group out of California called the Accelerator for America. And the Accelerator for America is the group of individuals who wrote this legislation. So it was Cory Booker and Tim Scott really they wrote this legislation to try to make investment happen in low-income communities that helps to build wealth within those communities. And that's the real key to this and why the Accelerator is so involved in it. So not only is it about people making investments, it also has to be paired with making the right kinds of investments. And that's what we're really trying to define and work on right now. Oklahoma City was selected as one of 3 cities to develop an initial investment prospectus for the community. So Louisville and South Bend, Indiana, where Notre Dame University is located, we were the first 3 communities that Accelerator was gonna work with to do this. Our investment prospectus has been completed. Ours in Louisville. South Bend is still, I don't know what they're doing, but theirs isn't done yet. But a lot of other communities have. So now we've got our prospectus on our website. You can see it on the Alliance's website. And we are beginning to try to market this to potential investors. So the other thing that we'll be doing is we're gonna be creating a website with a portal where you can submit projects that need investors. And again, we're looking for projects that create the kind of investment that we want to see. So here are some projects that right now are ready for investment. Many of these are targeted for workforce or affordable housing. So that's one of the things that we really think is important. Page Woodson Phase 3 is on there. 700 Northwest, West 4th Street is a project that'll be workforce and affordable housing at 4th and Chartel. Boulevard Place is another housing project that will be next to the new Omni Hotel, and we want to have workforce units in it as well. The study is a cute little kind of wine bar thing that is looking for a modest investment. So it can be any size project. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to need a lot of money, but the key to development is finding investors. And one of the great things about having these kind of meetings is you get to network. And real estate development is about having a network and having a network of investors. So as you think about how you want to do development and what you want to see happen, think about who are my potential investors? Is it family? Is it other business people you know? Is it somebody you never met but might have some money? You need people with money. So it kind of took me a while to figure this one out, but I finally got it. The other thing I want to say something about home ownership and the importance of building personal wealth. So one of the ways that the number one way that people in the United States traditionally have built personal wealth is through owning a home. So that's one of the reasons why we focus so much on building single-family houses. So just remember that when you're thinking about Northeast Oklahoma City, we really need more people owning a home and living in the community. We're not going to get amenities to develop in the area without more people living there. So it will take a combination of multifamily. We will have to have some apartments. Everybody needs a pathway to ownership. We all rented before we owned. But I really want to emphasize that the way we build wealth in a community is through home ownership and frankly through investing in real estate. And if you wonder how so many of these guys get wealthy, that's how they do it. So I just wanted to say that. That's my editorial comment for the morning. This is our website. We'd love to have you sign up for our newsletter. We publish a newsletter every so often, every other month. And then this is our website address and our phone number. Feel free to email or call us. We'd love to hear from you. And obviously, we'd really like to have you respond to RFPs that we have out right now. That is the end. Do we have time for questions, or are we running so far behind? Okay, keep going? Okay.
Okay, well, actually, you know what? We'll take
Take a couple questions.
take a couple questions, and then
Questions?
it's a little.
Yep.
This selection process, how do you do that? You say you do it in public meetings, when?
Well, the selection committee meets privately. We don't meet in public, because sometimes the developers don't want that to be a public meeting for pretty obvious reasons. So it's usually, it'd be somebody from my staff, we usually include somebody from the planning department staff at the city, maybe somebody else from the city staff. We will sometimes invite a council person or one of our board members to sit in on that selection committee. Usually we do, actually. We do not have a selection committee process for single-family home development, though. That is just on the commercial projects. The single-family homes, we review in-house. It's been very routinized, you know, we just do it. It's very administrative, just so we can make sure things move pretty quickly.
I don't want to follow the question, but the Tax Cut Act that you're talking about, I mean, I know that Donald Trump signed this in the by himself, and the concern that we have, I believe not but NEOKC is state officer. The concern that we have is that he's allowing these developers to push their money into these poor communities, and we're kind of disengaged from the process because all this flood of money is going to come in, and the people who live in these communities aren't going to know it hit them.
Right.
And so, have you guys put anything into place that allows input?
What we're trying to work on right now is, like, with our work with Accelerator for America, trying to develop a process where we can meet with engage the community. It may be we get the Northeast Renaissance group to help us with that. It may be a very collaborative effort with a whole bunch of nonprofits and other agencies that are interested in job creation and wealth building. We're working with some foundations nationally that are really interested in this. So the Accelerator's concern is the same as yours, and my concern is the same as yours, is that this has to be a community-driven process where we figure out from the community what kind of projects do you want, how do you want to participate, what makes sense, what do you want to see, what do you not want to see. Now, I will tell you, we don't have a lot of control over some of the investments. This is a program that was designed to be very simple for a taxpayer to participate in. So there are no reporting requirements. I can fill out a one-page form and submit it with my income taxes and create my own fund and make my own investment, and I don't have to tell you anything. So there's a little bit of concern around that all over the country. I mean, I just came from a meeting, and it is the same concern all over the country. And we're still waiting for the final regulations, so there's a little timing issue.
Do you have a fund name here?
We have decided not to create a fund at this point in time through the Alliance, but there are people who are looking at creating funds.
There's not one yet, you know?
I don't know that there's one yet, but I do know that people have already self-certified.
We'll take two more questions.
Okay,
She's got her hand up for a second. We'll take one more.
Okay, which one? Okay.
So just really quickly, I wonder what the process is for people here who might be interested in providing support services as a part of the development that's already going on. So when you all are addressing environmental issues, for example, and somebody has to be contracted with to clean up those properties in order for them to be ready for development, how do the people in this room gain access to the ability to become that entity?
So we contract with lots of different kinds of people. If you're interested in being one of our vendors, just submit your name to us and let us know. We do have a process that we have to use once a year to develop a list of vendors, because we do use federal grant dollars to support our operations. We got a bunch of rules that we have to follow. So we have to have a process where we take lists of companies and we put them on our list. So if you're interested in doing business with us as a contractor, please let me know. Yeah, we'd absolutely want to know that.
And the second really quick question I have is on your residential guidelines, do you allow for mixed-use properties? Because I know that in this room there are several people who are what would be identified as maybe small-scale developers. So everybody's not going to start out with a hotel or an apartment complex or whatever. And so there could be the desire by somebody in this room to do two things at once. to own a primary residence, but also offer a yoga studio in the community in that same entity?
Yes, so, some of our parcel, I mean, that is really a zoning issue and not necessarily what we do, but we will work with people to try to see if we can get the zoning changed. Usually it's up to the developer to pay the cost of changing the zoning. Now, I will say, most of our commercial sites are pretty small. You're not gonna build a hotel on most of them. They're like a 2-city lots. So you could do something mixed use in one of those commercial areas that's already zoned commercial pretty easily. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I know that affirmative action is sort of weak these days, but does the city have any kind of program where the playing field is level for folks, like maybe in here, who can get these contracts? Do y'all have a program to deal with that?
I don't believe that the city does. I don't work for the city anymore, so I don't really, but I think, I did work for the city for a long time, and I know what the challenge is. Pardon me?
Money talks.
I think more of it is that the city charter says they have to award the bid to the lowest bidder, and that's the struggle. And that's what state law says we have to do, so.
One of the comments we had from the back was, are any of these slides available to share with the audience?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
You can share them.
So
They're saved on here.
Okay.
Here's my flash drive. I'll email it to you. Yeah, I'll do
So
that.
she'll email it to us, and then we'll get it shared all in Quentin, and then we'll go to the next.
So the Alliance is a nonprofit. We have our own separate board, but our board does not make any policies. We administer the policies of all of the boards we serve, and all of those are public agencies. So they have their own separate boards that are appointed by mayor and council, and so we have lots of board meetings. We have a lot of public board meetings.
So we have one more question from Quentin, and then we'll go to the next one.
Yes, to your knowledge, in regards to opportunity zones, to your knowledge, are the only people who can invest in the opportunity fund those with capital gains dollars, or I should say, is the only money that can be invested in the opportunity fund, does it have to come from a capital gain, or could I just give and still reap those benefits of the tax-free profits after 10 years?
90% of the money in the fund has to come from capital gains. So there is the ability for 10% of it to come from somewhere else. Now, since it's not capital gains, you won't get the increased basis and all that other stuff.
Right.
But you would get the 10-year.
Comment about that. It's my understanding that you could invest in property, even if it isn't a capital gain, and at the end of the time period, your gain from that investment is tax-free. Anybody can, is my understanding. Right?
Deferment is what she's talking about.
Yeah, and that's what I think he's saying, is you qualify for the deferment, you don't get the increased basis.
But you don't have to have a capital gain to make the investment. But
I'm not a lawyer, I'm not gonna give any opinions about how this thing works, it's all still up in the air anyway, so.
But at the end of the time period, if you sell that investment, you pay no taxes at 10 years.
You might want to talk to a lawyer about that. I wouldn't, I'm not a tax lawyer, so I wouldn't have anything to give you advice on that. That would be dangerous.
So really quick, there's the little speakers in front of you. If the light is actually showing green, like lit green, if you could turn it off, there's on the bottom of it, just press on the bottom of it, says push that. So yeah, we'll get a little bit of echo on the live feed. Oh, and also there is a live feed going on for the morning sessions. So if you go to the Facebook event page, you can watch this live, so you can share it with your friends who didn't come, or asking you, are there any more tickets left? Just tell them they can watch it in the morning. All right. So we're going to keep on going. Next, we have Mr. David Lloyd. He is going to give a perspective on what it is to be a developer and what that looks like. Mr. Lloyd.
My name's David Lloyd. First, while Cathy, I know she's got to she's jetting out of here and she's got to get back to another place. Before I kind of jump in, and I just want to say that one of our first major projects was through an RFP 15, 20 years ago that came out of that department. So that's very, you guys need to take that information down, and we still try to participate with things of them today. And actually, I say try to, actually we do participate in those things today. This is really neat and so encouraging. Just first of all, we're not gonna make up ground with me on time. Somebody else, Aisha, you gonna have to, it's gonna be a problem. I'm sorry, Nikki, but this right here not gonna be one of these. We're not gonna be making up ground with me on time. And one reason why is because I just walk in this room and I'm really excited. I've been developing. I'm a legacy developer, and I've participated in some things, but this is really neat. Just look at the room and just imagine the economic power that sits in this room today. And I think that's I really thank those that have put this on and put it together, because this is just, I've been doing this for a while. I looked at the picture that they had, and I wasn't gray. Being a developer will make you gray. It'll get you there. But it's so encouraging to kind of see people that look like us in our community starting to develop. So I'm just really excited about that. With that being said, so I'll jump in. I'll give you a quick sermon real quick, and then I'll really get to what you came here for. Number one is I'm a legacy developer. My dad started in real estate in 1978. And so I know a little bit about this thing. In other words, at 8 years old, I cleaned up my first rent house. I've been doing this for a while. My dad was a broker, he was a real estate commissioner, and then he got into building and constructing. And one thing that I'm always happy and I always praise God is that the people that we were, he went from picking cotton to picking land. And so that's important to me, because so many people have died for the right for us to have opportunity. Yes. And so many times we won't get together and collaborate to have that opportunity. Now, we'll do an offering later. But I think of that every day, and it's funny, I tell people this, I'm not a politician, but I put my American flag on every day because America's still great. Amen. America's still great. And the reason why it's great is look at this room. Now, let's talk about what you came here for. That's a little bit about the Lloyd Group. The Lloyd Group, we make up a bunch of different companies, and I won't get into those companies, and it's been a long time, but as I said, our legacy goes back to 1978. That company was the first initially a real estate company. That company is still alive today. It's over about 40 years old, so that's just something to just kind of put. That was my dad's second career. His first career was retired military, Vietnam veteran. So you don't have to be young to get in the game. You can do a lot of things afterwards, and so there's time. But I will tell you something as we get going, it takes time. It takes a lot of time in this business. Our expertise is development, construction, capital asset management, and investments. I'm not going to sit here and bore you with those things, but as a company, we're vertically integrated. That means my company can do pretty much everything outside of licensed trades, outside of architecture, outside of engineering. In other words, we're pretty robust. With that being said, we really are small. In the development world, we are a very, very small company. That sounds big, but listen to this. Currently in development in this city, my company, we have over $35 million worth of active development going. And you just heard I said we were what? Small. We small. And we have over currently $35 million going. And so we start talking about large developments, that can be one development. That can just be one in itself. And so I do want to say that, you know, so in other words, when I say we're small, I mean, my resources, my time, my energy, it's finite. I mean, we're a small company. In our community, we're probably a large company. But in the bigger world of things, we're really small. So that's kind of who we are and what we do. I think there's 4 pillars of development. This is from me, this is from my experience. And one of the things that's really neat, Cathy said, when you get ready to do development, you're gonna need a lot of what? You got to have some money. Number 1 is you need a lot of money to be a developer. Or you need a lot of people to get together to get some money. Okay, our development, don't get me wrong, you can get in that. Now, one thing that's neat, and I want everybody to pay attention, this is really neat. I bought my first flipping rent house when I was 24 years old. I bought it with $15,000, and then I flipped it and I got it for $30,000. And so the neat thing about everybody sitting in this room is I've probably been you. So it's not impossible. I started with my own rent house. I flipped it, I bought it at the county tax sale. Got it, flipped it, turned it, made a little money, and kept doing that, and moved up the ladder, moved up the chain, and to the point that we still can, at this point, still hold multiple single-family residences. So that's, if you want to know, that should be encouraging to everybody here, is that I've been you. I've been the person sitting in that chair. Me and Drew are developing a relationship. One thing we'll talk about is try to get a mentor, try to get somebody that you know that's been successful in this business, kind of sit down and talk to them. But the reason why I say that is because everybody sitting in here, I've been you. And a lot of times I had a lot of time, I had no money. I know that's not correct, but it's just real. I didn't have no money. So I want you guys to understand that you got to, across the board, but the first thing is you got to have some money. Personal capital, legacy land, something that has some value, private investors, and if you get really lucky, when you get to a whole nother level, you'll maybe get some institutional money, or you can get some funded money. But one thing is, the first pillar I say on this thing is you need to have some land. The second thing is experience. Experience. I don't want to deter anyone because I don't think you need a lot of experience, but to get in the game, you got to have some experience, and you're doing that now. You're just learning. You know, pick up a book, go to conferences, just get some lay experience. I don't care how you get it. It doesn't really matter. Partner with somebody, see somebody, follow somebody on YouTube, pay for somebody, go to a seminar. I've done it all, been there all, it all works. You'll remember about 5% of what I say, so you'll need to do a whole lot more. But that, and if you, in the next level, obviously, is then, you know, if you've got personal experience, if you're in the industry, you can go hire consultants as well, or you can partner with a seasoned developer. It's one thing that I want to make really known, that you can get experience by partnering with other developers. Currently, right now, we have 6 or 7 projects on our own going, and we are currently partnering with other developers. Some really neat, significant things. One of our development teams, we bought a corner of downtown. It's 13 of us that are involved in that partnership. It'll probably be about a $40 to $55 million development. It's going to take some time. That's one thing I want to continue to make clear. It takes a lot of time, but that's really exciting. I can't really tell you what it is, but because it's in the infancy stages and we're garnering a lot of attention, but those are neat things. But I'm in other partnerships is what I'm saying. I'm involved with other people. Once you do that, you need to get a really good team together as a developer. And maybe let me clarify development real quick for you too as well. Development is typically taking raw land. Nothing's there. Bringing in infrastructure, possibly rezoning it. It's a long process. And so a lot of times you specifically will not have those expertise. I am not an architect. I can draw a mean picture on a piece of paper. Sketch it out. But to get it approved through the city, I need to have a good architect. I need to be able to take that to somebody. I need somebody with those professional licenses is what I'm saying. And so that's part of the development process. So you got to have a good team. A lot of it, you got to have a good construction company. You got to have a good legal department. You got to have good real estate agents. You got to have a good team. And I didn't put but a couple of these on here. One reason I didn't put but a couple of them on here is because some of the information, I give you a little bit of information. I'm a consultant, so I get paid for the rest of the information. My experience, my knowledge to cost some money. Obviously, I want to help my community, so there's some things I'm going to give away, right? And I want to give you a way that I've been you, but there's some other things that's what we get paid for. We get paid for that knowledge base. But you want to have a really good team. The next thing is you got to have time. Some projects we do are right now. We buy them, they're immediate. We have to develop them within a certain timeline, a certain time frame. I call those the now projects. That's not even short term. That's, we buy it, we start, we got to start in 90 to 120 days. We just procured a project around 30 days ago from a other developer that got it to a certain point. We've got that project. That's a now project. Within 90 days, that project will be moving dirt. It's a really neat project. It's in Edmond. We do projects all over the city, but it's in Edmond. It's an apartment complex, and within 90 days, it needs to be moving dirt. That's now. Then you have the short term, which to me, short term, let me explain what short term is in this business. Short term is typically anywhere between 1 to 5 years. That's short term. I should have probably put a dash there, but between 1 to 5 years. It takes a year to figure out how you're going to get the money to buy it. I'm just being honest, right? You see it, you got a great idea, you go and tell everybody your great idea, and they're like, I'm giving you no money. It's just not going to happen. So it takes a year to find out that once you possibly figure out how to get it bought, it's going to take a year to get it designed and looked at and eligible and all those other things, that's, performance. It's just a process. So that's kind of a 1 to 5 year process, and then there's some long term. And that's really neat. Some of you guys long term, I mean, your parents own some land on the east side, and so now I got an opportunity. It's some equity and everything. It takes some time, and so anything after that is 1 to 5 years. It takes a lot of time though. Interesting, as I was thinking about this when I was even putting down time, there's a piece of land I bought 15 years ago, sold it 8 years ago. It's still vacant. It takes time. I bought it knowing the city's on the way. This was in Midwest. The city's on the way. It's gonna be here. I bought it. I held it. I looked at it. I said, "Oh, I'm out of time." I sold it. I drove by it. It's still vacant. So it's taken 25 years for this to happen downtown. 25 years for downtown to really get going. And so I do want time. And then I put in there not just time on that, it takes personal time. My wife is in the room today, and thank you for being here, but I'm remiss to say, you have to take some time away from your family typically to make this happen, because most of you, it'll be your secondary income initially. It's just not your first thing, and that's typical with development. Let me make that clear. Most developers initially, it's their secondary income. It's a doctor, it's a lawyer, it's somebody giving money to a project to invest in it. It's people like us that are giving money to a project. It's initially your second career. It was initially my second career. I was in different fields first before I got full-time into development. So it's what I'm just trying to tell you, on a personal level, you're gonna have to sacrifice a lot of time away from your family, reading, research, looking at opportunity zones, understanding, reading. It's gonna take a lot of personal time as well. If you think it takes a lot of time to develop a project, it takes a lot of time to even get to the point to develop a project on a personal level. I don't know where we're at on time, but I hope I'm doing pretty good. 3 minutes? Oh yeah, this is not gonna work. Okay. So those are the 4 pillars of development. Those are the big things you need for the development. The next thing is for us there are 10 stages of development. I'm not gonna sit here and talk to those real quick, but I can go through them real quick for you, and I'll just kind of bullet point those. Everybody get your camera out and take a picture. These are the first 5 stages. And the first one is, obviously, you drove by a piece of land or you own a piece of land and man, this is the best thing in the world, I'm going to make a lot of money. Everybody, don't get me wrong, everybody doesn't do development to make a lot of money, but I'm just going to tell you, the people that really do it, we do it to make money. And hopefully a lot, just to be honest with you. I mean, you want, most guys want to make money in this thing. That's how it becomes sustainable. If you're doing development, and don't get me wrong, I would love to do development just for the community. But if you're doing it just for the community and you don't have a way to make money, you only do it once. You have one time, because you're going to be broke and everybody investing with you, going to be like, nope, not next time. It's just being real. So everybody has an idea, but that's the site, and then you gotta really get busy. You gotta have a development feasibility, which is the concept, and one of the neat things on here, we put pro formas. That's the numbers. That's probably more important than anything we're talking about. Real people that do real development want to see numbers. When am I gonna make my money back? How long am I gonna get my money back? That's a small thing, and then there's some incentives. And that's the opportunity zones, and tax things, and historical tax credits, and new market tax credits, and mama money tax credits, and everybody, incentives. That's the next step right there. Then, this is a really simple word, it's called due diligence. Now notice, if you notice on here, I have not bought a piece of land yet. My acquisition's level 5. But just try. So there's due diligence, and that's the environmental studies, that's the zoning, that's everything, that's the next door neighbors, that's really due diligence. We do a 70-point due diligence checklist. Come see me, we can sell it to you. So 70-point due diligence checklist, and then obviously the next step is, as you see this land, as you do it, you gotta look at funding, bank, debt, investors, capital, all those things, and then we acquire the land, close it, and kind of go from there. That's in our step 5. So there's a lot of time that goes before you really close the land. If you do own the land, you've skipped some steps, but there's a lot of time invested before you even close the land. A lot of times our due diligence, we put up anywhere between 30 to 90 days due diligence before we acquire the land, and that's the person we're acquiring the land from. If you're in this business, most of them say, I understand, or hey, I got some of this done for you, you don't have to do it all. Phase 1 environment is very important. Are there environmental issues? And that's what Cathy was talking about. That's a big deal. The next thing is, and this is really one of the neat stages, and I put this by itself, because this is the one everybody loves. This is the one mama come home, wife, family, children, your next door neighbor. This is the one where you put the pictures out, and you show the design. Now, I'm not going to get into really the planning or the zoning, because we'll be here all day, but this is the one that you show the design. What you going to build. This is where everybody get excited. This is where it's in the newspaper. Okay, this right here is a merge. This right here is a merge project. As Nikki knows, this is on 23rd and Coltrane. This is going to be an apartment complex. It's a $23 million project with a potential of a $35 million investment on 23rd and Coltrane. The entry to the east side. This is one of our prized possessions. It's going to take some time, but that's what the clubhouse looks like. It is market rate housing in our community. We should give ourselves a hand first of all. This has some financing, and Cathy O'Connor and those were a part of it. This has got some TIF money involved in it. This, to get to this point, is only taken 4 years, Drew. Only taken 4 years, and we're still not all the way there. But the land's acquired, we're funding, we're in these zoning stages. This is the pretty picture stage, right? I like this stage. This is where everybody gets happy. I get excited as well. This is what that apartment complex is going to look like. And there were some interior pictures. And then the one below, that's another shopping complex that we just finished, which was a strip center. But the reason why I put this in, this is when everybody gets excited. This is when you kind of can see the vision. This is what you put together. This is your design stage. The next one, as you're doing the design stage, right, you got to continue to, you got to market, you got sales, you got construction, project completion, and exit strategy. I'm kind of rushing, but I think everybody understands the point. It takes a lot of time. But while you're doing that, while you're getting those pictures, you're getting those pictures for one reason, right? You're getting those pictures so you can kind of get it to your real estate agent. You should go get this thing sold, make some money. Go get this thing property leased up. This is kind of what happens. And then, you know, as you get that, you get the attention. You obviously have to have a good construction partner. We're vertically integrated. Most of our projects go to HGL Construction. I would say most of them, that would be probably all of them. We have a partner that we use. I show you this picture at the top, right? If you look at the bottom left-hand corner, that was the image of what that was going to look like, and then that's the finished project to the top right.
Put that other one up, please.
Which one? This one here?
Yes, sir. Thank
Okay.
you.
So you want your image, which you show everybody, which you show your investors, which you show grandma, which you say, you know, everybody with their IRA account. That's what we want to build, and then you want to construct it, and at the end of the day, you want it to look like what you said. This project at this time, I think we're 100% complete, but you want it to look alike, bottom line. And then obviously there's some exit strategy. I won't go there too in depth because that's short-term, long-term, things of that nature. Are you in a project play for 10 years, etc. But you need to have an exit strategy. A lot of people get in and don't know how to get out. And the market can change on you really quick. And I don't even wanna get into financing and things of that nature, cause it changes. Most of the times on these commercial loans, they're not 30-year loans. They're 5-year balloon notes, or they're 7-year loans with 20 or 25-year amortizations. Typically never 30. Let me just give you that tidbit. 20-year to 25-year amortization on a commercial loan, okay? Usually a 5-year balloon payment, sometime a 7, sometime a floating rate, okay? And usually between 20 to 25% equity down. So, you gotta know how to get out. Those are the 10 stages of development. And right here, what I put is, this is one of our really featured projects. We're really proud of it. It's downtown. It's right. It's north of the Contemporary Arts Center, and they just ran an article in the newspaper on it on March 13th. And this is one of our major pieces. This is the Cane's Coffee Building. You can't really see it, but it's off of 12th and Broadway. But that's our other development. That's 50,000 square feet that we're developing. We just had an article ran in, like I said, the Daily Oklahoma on March 13th, and so I just threw that out there. That's our feature development. After the feature development, our next real priority is getting a merge off of that. This 50,000 square feet is gonna have a gym in the basement. It's got some common area. It's a 1919 building. So we're actually in the middle of doing the first stages of demo and some phase 1 environmental. It's 100 years old. We're excited about it. We're proud about it. We will move our corporate headquarters down there. Just for the record, we're gonna have a lot of space to lease, and I would love for y'all to lease some space. Get my marketing in real quick here, Aisha. So this is the area, but this is right here is our feature building, and so we're excited about 50,000 square feet, one of our biggest endeavors right now. It's got historical tax credits on it. It took a lot of time, historical tax credits, to get those, to make sure we got them, and to get the right investors and et cetera on board with that, because it's not easy, but it does have some incentives. I show you what it looks like now, right? That doesn't look real pretty. That looks pretty dilapidated. Kind of show you that. Kind of show you the schematics of the plans that initially go into it, and then of course, like I say, show you that building. That's what it looks like today. That's called development. It's pretty raw. It's pretty ugly. It's pretty rough. And then obviously we got the pretty picture. Show you what it's gonna look like. Okay, and that's the vision and the dream, right? And so that's our featured current project. And then on another level, HGL, we do everything. Right now we have residential development going in the Middale area. I mentioned we have the Emerge Apartments complex going. We just showed you that retail strip center that we're on the completion of, and then we have multifamily going in Edmond. That's to the tune of around $35 million in projects. We have another $40 million that we're looking at partnering with or in some capacity with on some level. And so that's kind of development. I'll finish. I will tell you this, Omar's in the back of the room. I love to take information. We get back with everybody, but if you come and talk to me and give me your card, I'm not gonna remember you. I'm just gonna be honest. But if you Omar, raise your hand real quick. If you give your card to Omar and you write down and he gets your information, we'll get back with you. I get back with everybody. And the reason why I get back with everybody, because I've been on that side and somebody's been on this side and they said they were gonna do it and they didn't do it. Now I won't tell you I personally get back with you. I got a team. But somebody will call you. Some of you just want to talk about your ideas. Some of you just want to think things through, you know. But we will try to get back with you on that situation. We make phone calls. It takes sometimes up to 2 to 3 weeks, but that phone call will come. So give Omar your information is what I'm saying. And I know you're here for a reason. Somebody's got to develop and somebody needs a partner. That could potentially be me. And so I don't say that, I say that honestly. On the information, you can contact one of my other assistants. His name is Herman Berger. More than welcome to write his information down. You can email him. That's the best way to get a hold of us currently. And then we take a little time, like I said, anywhere between 2 to 3 weeks to get back to you. That's Lloyd Group Holding, and I hope you've learned something. And I love what we have in the room. I think there's a fund in this room, to be honest, where we can get together and do something really special. Thank you.
So like he said, because we're trying to catch up on time, Omar is going to be the question gatherer for him. So make sure you get your question to him. So as you're taking pictures and videos or whatnot as you post them online, so I want you to use this hashtag. Hashtag NEDC 2019. NEDC 2019. Share it online and let people know all the great information, feedback, quotes that you hear. Definitely post those online. And then we're going to catch up. So we'll probably go to lunch, probably at about 11:30, 11:45. No, it says about 11:15, but we're going to catch up. So the next presenter that we have will be, thank you, Mr. Lloyd. What I really liked about what Mr. Lloyd was saying is he was talking about the fact that this takes time. And I know when we see projects, when we see them, it's up. You see frames, you see parking lots being paved, but that's what we see. So I'm glad that he emphasized that this process takes time, which is going to require communication and collaboration. And like he said, I do believe that there's something special come out of this room, and a fund that is available is going to come out of this room. So the next speaker that we have will be Aisha Lockport. She's going to talk about the state of home ownership in Northeast Oklahoma City. And then we'll have, after that, we'll talk about placemaking, and then we will get ready to transition over to lunch, because I kind of tasted the chicken already, and it's good.
Hello.
Hello.
My part is not going to be long at all, so just to kind of help us make up on some time while I'm getting plugged in here. All right, so I think before we go into statistics and things about home ownership in Northeast Oklahoma City, I think it's important to highlight the life cycle of a neighborhood. Every neighborhood has a life cycle that they go through. First stage is generally development. And let me outline what a life cycle is. Life cycle is an evolving appraisal concept that was used to do urban planning. Right? So the life cycle generally has 4 to 5 stages. The stage 1 starts with development. An area has to be developed in order for people to want to come to the area. So development is the first stage. The second stage is the introduction of that development. It follows behind development. Once development is put up, the neighborhood is introduced. I would say that several years ago, Deer Creek was an area that went through some development, and it was introduced as maybe a new hot area. After development and introduction, then it goes into growth, okay? Deer Creek is experiencing a growth phase right now. A lot of population are finding that place a place where they want to go, they want to live, they want to work, that kind of thing. After the growth phase, it goes into maturity. Maturity is probably the longest life cycle. A neighborhood can mature by, continuing to bring population up there. The cost of the real estate in the area can increase. That's usually the height of the market during the maturity phase. And then obviously after maturity, then you'll have a decline. Any time period, a life cycle, a neighborhood life cycle can be for a specific time period. Meaning, like if you have, at each stage, periods of time have to pass in order for the stage to go into another neighborhood life cycle stage. So, in my opinion, and I'm sure a lot of you guys would agree with me right now, the Northeast Oklahoma City is on the decline, and we've been there for quite some time. Decline neighborhoods, from a lot of top economists say that when businesses leave the area, when schools are on the decline, when services are on the decline, when a lot of the home ownership in an area turns into public assistance or rental area, then that signifies a decline in the neighborhood. I would say that since Northeast Oklahoma City is in a decline stage and we've been there for a long time, it must go through a development stage in order for us to go back to the growth and the stability that we need over there. I wish I had the chart to show you guys right now. I think that, you know, where do we go from here, right? I think the opportunity zones are what would attract the developers to the area, that would make people want to move back over there. From a show of hands, who in this room lives in Northeast Oklahoma City now? Okay, that's great. A lot of times with residential investment, you know, investors have come into the area, they bought up a lot of the real estate there. That money has left the community, right? And on top of that, the rent income that those tenants are paying to the investors don't live in the community either. So again, that money is being spent outside of the community. With a lack of shopping, a lack of dining in the area, the people that live in the area have to go outside of the area to spend the money to get the resources that they need also. I think the opportunity zones will entice developers that want to move back into the area to build things where people can begin spending their money back in the community, so that money can be recycled into the community that will start a growth phase, a stability phase again for Northeast Oklahoma City. 3 zip codes entail Northeast Oklahoma City. They're 73105, 73111, and 73117. In the last 10 years, the prices of those homes in those zip codes have doubled. The average sales price starts about $45,000. Back 10 years ago, they're averaging about $120 right now in certain zip codes. Just those 3 zip codes, the prices of the houses have doubled in the areas. So there is some increase, there is some growth there, but not enough growth to sustain, you know, a growth phase for the entire community. That's pretty much, that's pretty much all. If you guys have some questions for me, my name is Aisha Larkpour. I'm with Thunder Team Realty. We do sales and leasing, commercial leasing and property management. You can reach out to me. I'm sitting over here in the corner, and we can just move right on where we can get to lunch.
Your phone number?
Area code 405-525-5055. Go ahead.
While you're waiting on the next person.
Yeah, like where did all over this?
Can you tell a little bit about your business, how long you've been in business, how many people you have on your team, how big or small you all do?
Yep, we're located at 1701 North Broadway, downtown Oklahoma City. We're on the corner of 16th and Broadway. We've been at that location for about 5 years. We have 17 agents, sales agents and leasing agents. We do property management for commercial and residential. We sell all over the state. We do land sales, short sales, foreclosures. Yeah, been there. I'm been around for about 10 years now. Thank you.
We're gonna. Do you have questions for Aisha? Sorry to cut you short, but I know y'all have agendas, so y'all can see that we are behind. So we want to try to catch up there. By the way, my name is Quentin Hughes. I lead Northeast OKC Renaissance Inc., organization that's partnered with OKC Black Youth to host this event. Coming up next, we're going to have our presentation of, placemaking or placekeeping. So we have some great folks to talk about this. First up, we'll have Anita on. Give it up.
Good morning. Good morning. Let me say that Mr. Lloyd talked about long-term and short-term. Right now in my phase of work, I'm in the short-term. I will start out by saying that my mind, looking at this room, is just really refreshing. You've come a long way. We've come a long way since 1985, when I was a real estate broker, and I still am a real estate broker, a commercial real estate broker. And I'm not going to spend any time talking about the hurdles that our generation bore for you. I'm saying that you need to keep moving forward.
Yes, ma'am.
And the opportunities are here. And I see areas that still need improvement as far as our ability to move ahead, to become all that we can become as real estate developers or community builders in our Oklahoma City area. I will tell you that my real estate experience is expansive, it's long. I came from corporate America. I spent a number of years working for AT&T Corporation, which is where I took early retirement at the age of 45. Wow. I retired at 45. Come on. And came back home to make my contribution to Oklahoma City. It's an Oklahoma City that I didn't know. I call it the school of hard knocks, where it's unnecessarily difficult. And that's just being real.
Yes.
Now, I also work for the U.S. Postal Service, and I bet you didn't know this one thing. And I hope maybe some of the things that I'm saying to you will open your eyes to other opportunities. But the U.S. Postal Service is the largest real estate holding company in the world. I never thought of it either until I got up there and I was in the real estate and buildings department. And it ties right into history here in Oklahoma City. It ties right into history down on 2nd Street. Now I gave Dr. Hughes, some information about the early development of 2nd Street. And William Vivett was the first developer, African-American developer, who developed 2nd Street, Deep Deuce area, and others. You can see some of his work even today on Northeast 50th Street. There's a big white house that overlooks I-35. And Mr. Vivett built that house. If African Americans wanted to have great structures and appealing structures that were representative of their stature, Mr. Vivett was the man for the job. Now, he also built the Slaughter Building, which was down there on 2nd Street. Dr. G.E. Finley's office was on 2nd Street. And I will tell you that having worked for the U.S. Postal Service, I discovered something that you all probably didn't know to this day. I'd be willing to bet my last penny that Dr. Finley was the first billionaire before Oprah, but he was under the radar. He owned property everywhere, and as a matter of fact, right up the hill there where the W Hotel is, that was Dr. Finley's property. But I found out about Dr. Finley when I worked for the U.S. Postal Service. Why? Because he owned postal services, post offices right here in Oklahoma City. He owned the one right up there that's presently at Martin Luther King and Euclid Street, as a matter of fact. He owned the one that is vacant right up there on 24th Street. He owned the one that was on 8th Street before they built this one right here. I never would have known it had I not worked for the U.S. Postal Service in real estate and buildings. Later on, when I transitioned to a career that has become Black Incorporated in Fine Arts, I was over at Dr. Finley's house with a photographer, a national photographer from National Geographic. And I said to Dr. Finley, I bet you I know something about you that you don't think I know. And his eyes got wide and he didn't know what I was talking about. And he thought maybe it was church related because Dr. Finley and I used to go to the same church, First AME Church at that time. When I told him I knew about all of these post offices he owned in Oklahoma City, he said, but did you know about the ones in Colorado? Did you know? You know, and so when I was in Washington DC working for the Postal Service in real estate and buildings, I didn't think to look all over the United States. I was looking at Oklahoma City and all of the post offices he owned there. Now, all he had to do was open the mailbox and pull out the check. And those contracts with the U.S. Postal Service were long-term, like 20 years with renewable leases. And the post office would tell him where, they would tell him because he had already purchased a couple of them, where they wanted to locate the next one. He would buy the land and they would give him the specs, and they would also build the post office on there and then do a lease with him. And so that's what you call a real money maker. You know? So I thought I'd give you some historic examples where opportunities lie where you never even thought. The other thing I wanted to talk to you just a little bit about, when I came back here at the retired age of 45, I had put my 3 children through college by real estate purchasing, Mr. Lloyd, by refurbishing, and I read everything I knew about real estate in a book called How I Made $1 Million Without Really Trying. That book was very helpful. It's very applicable even to this day. I just went to Ralph Ellison Library. I checked the book out and I followed the instructions, and I could relate because it was a person who had been an employee of Bell Telephone System, which most of my career was spent in the Bell Telephone System, before the divestiture and breakup of that system, which is now AT&T and its related subsidies. I came back here and decided I wanted to know more about real estate, since I didn't know anything except what was in that book. So that's when I became a real estate broker. I went through, I got my sales associate. I quickly, as soon as the time would permit, I went back and got the broker's license. I did not really want to sell houses unless they were investment properties. I wanted to do commercial properties. Yes, I had listings like Walmart down in Chickasha. I had listings of a golf course in Shawnee, Oklahoma, and those were adventures. It's interesting the people that you get to know and know how the demand is. Everybody, every wealthy person wants to own a Walmart. And Walmart usually does not own the building. They will lease it from you in your community, wherever that is. I'm just giving you some things to think about that you hadn't ever thought about when the opportunity is all around you. But if nobody tells you, you never had the experience, you'll never know. So that's part of what I'm trying to tell you here this morning. The other thing that I wanted to bring to your attention, after I spent all those long hours, Mr. Lloyd, in the real estate market, and it was during the time when the Penn Square Bank failed. And that was when Oklahoma City was a boarded up city. When I say that, seriously, that was before a lot of your time. But May Avenue was boarded up from north to south. And the common joke was, nobody's making any money in Oklahoma City except the lumber yards. And it was a depressing time. But thank God we've come this far, and we can begin to see a little bit of light. Now, let me jump right ahead to some other adventures that I've had since retiring. Life just never would have been this much fun without retirement. But when I first came back here, I was appointed to serve on the National Democratic Site Selection Committee. And we were the ones that picked the site in Atlanta, Georgia for the convention in 1988. Well, I got a good good insights on development when I served on that committee. Because why? Because I talked to the governors of different states, because cities were competing all over America for that convention. Atlanta got the nod on that. I remember when Atlanta, seemingly, every time I went there when I was in corporate America, was under construction. And I didn't know what was going on, because Atlanta had been just almost like Oklahoma City. And I asked the mayor, what happened? What's all this construction? Well, they were trying to attract corporate, the 500, Fortune 500 companies, some of the companies to their city. They ended up attracting over 400 of these companies to their city. They found out first that they had to get their city ready for big business. They decided to ask the companies why they wouldn't come to their city. Well, it turned out that they said, look, this is what you need to know about your city. You have problems here with race relations, etc. We're not bringing our company in here until you solve some of your problems. We have enough problems inside the corporation that we have to work on. Atlanta got together and decided that what they were going to do was call a big meeting of the community leaders, preachers, politicians, everybody. And they decided a goal was to become the most friendly city in America. And when we were there, it reflected everywhere you went. People were friendly. They started attracting business there. Now, Memphis, Tennessee, years later, I lived there twice, wanted to become like Atlanta. So the mayor called Andrew Young and Maynard Jackson and said, we want to be just like you. Now, how do we become that? And I'm telling you this story because of those of you here in this room. I think you need to hear it. The mayor of Memphis was told, and he had been the popular school board superintendent down there when he ran. He said, first of all, you don't have enough black millionaires. He said, you got to make some. When I lived in Memphis the first time, it was a city I did not want to live in, even though there was a huge black population. But the Memphis that I know today that has developed from the advice of Maynard Jackson and Andrew Young is a place that's very livable. And culture plays a big part in that. Now, the mayor in Memphis decided, and these are challenging remarks I'm making here, but he decided that he would just really define what minority business was. And he insisted through his contracts that a certain amount of business went to minority contractors, people of color. He said it on paper. It was bold. But guess what? He accomplished his goal. And so companies are moving to Memphis as we speak. Service Master just moved in there because it's a place where people want to live. Culture is everywhere. We've got the beginnings of some culture right here in Oklahoma City. When you see Charlie Christian down there, his image near Film Row, I want you to know that Charlie Christian is creating economic development here in Oklahoma City. That is a project of Black Liberated Arts Center. When you see down at our Bricktown ballpark, the images on the wall, that is African American history right here in Oklahoma City. So don't walk by there and say, oh, that's pretty. Oh, that's nice. That's your history on those walls. Black Incorporated is 50 years old this year. contributed to the development of the city and continues to. Now, Charlie Christian Festival has been an economic engine. Look at that Zoo Amphitheater. That's where we held the first Charlie Christian Festival. The city noticed, now it's so expensive we can't be over there. So we moved down to 2nd Street. We got down there and picked up the trash and cleaned it up, and we had the festival on 2nd Street. Now look at Deep Deuce. Charlie Christian Festival did that. We went on downtown to Bricktown, yes we did, when there was nothing there but spaghetti warehouse. And now look at it. We moved out of there because we couldn't afford it any longer, and we moved down to Regatta Park. You know where Regatta Park is, it's the Boathouse District. We had Kirk Whaler, Najee, and all those artists down there, and guess what? We can't afford to be there either. Nevertheless, economic development has been contributed by the festival. The festival, Charlie Christian, you know, even though he died at the age of 25, he is now on the internet in every major language around the world. And if you Google the name, you'll see 72 million plus inquiries against that name. We haven't even begun to tap into the economic development that goes with that. Now, there are some buildings down there on 2nd Street, and I'm just gonna name a couple of them so you can look at them that you should hold near and dear because they have great history. The Luster Mansion is still there. The Little Page Building, that's where all of the musicians used to stay. It was a hotel at one point, and they stayed there. So those are some of the things that you have to keep in mind when you think in terms of culture, and all the more reason why we should be working together. And if you want to talk about it a little further, we're having a soul food dinner theater at Twin Hills Golf and Country Club Saturday night. Call me, we can talk. Thank you.
Definitely appreciate Ms. Arnold and being able to touch on some of that important history. And to tie into that, Ms. Christina Beatty's going to talk about how to, what are some ways that we can place make while place keeping, and honor that legacy while still forging a future.
So good morning, everyone. My name is Chris. I guess I should use this mic. Do I need the mic? Do I use the mic? What do y'all feel like? Okay. All right, well, I am excited to be here this morning, having, you know, really been raised right here on the east side. I was actually just telling Cornell earlier, my first job was in this research park. And currently I serve as Community Arts Director for the State Arts Council. And in that role, I work with communities all across the state in terms of identifying and leveraging their arts and cultural assets as part of a broader community and economic development strategy. And we're gonna talk, as soon as we get set up, a little bit about placemaking. No worries. Okay. Let's see how to best maneuver this. Okay, so what is placemaking? There are a lot of different definitions if you Google it on the internet. As the State Arts Agency, we tend to take our direction from the National Endowment for the Arts, and that's where this definition comes from. But you'll see that really there are several different components here. First of all, it really involves partnership. You're looking at folks in the public sector, folks in the private sector. You're looking at residents, developers, arts and other types of community organizations all working together, looking towards the goal to really impact both the physical character and the social character of a community. You are looking to do so using arts and culture as tools. And so the opportunity really is to animate those spaces physically, as well as just kind of to activate the atmosphere, right? And you know, all of that ultimately contributes to improving the viability of local businesses, as well as improving public safety, and really bringing folks together from across different walks of life. And so, as Quentin said, I really was asked to speak about placemaking for placekeeping. As a field, and really, you know, over the last 10 years, this is an area that has grown a lot, particularly in the arts and culture sector. And placemaking has certainly come under fire, because oftentimes you have folks from outside a community come in and make improvements and make changes, but maybe not with as much consideration for the local residents as there should be. And, you know, in my opinion, I would call that beautification. You know, we've seen examples of that many. However, really the opportunity from my perspective is that placemaking really can be about self-determination. It really can be about how do we identify what a community values about its culture, about its assets, and how do we leverage creativity that sometimes we take for granted. You know, many folks may not ever see themselves as an artist, but how many of you have a grandmother who made quilts, or, you know, an uncle who may carve wood, or, you know, how many of us, myself included, you know, I'm the only person at the Arts Council that doesn't actually have an art degree, but I sure grew up singing in the choir at church. Right. Or, you know, all of those different things that we do just as a part of our life that are expressions of our creativity and our ways to hold on to our history and our culture. And so I really wanted to talk about kind of 4 specific strategies that you guys can be thinking about specifically as developers as you're looking to impact the built landscape, looking at ways that you can think about employing arts and culture in the process of developing the built environment. And so we're going to talk about historic preservation, we're going to talk about design character, we're going to talk about public art, and we're going to talk about cultural programming. Historic preservation. So this is a field that really is changing a lot, right? Historically, it's not a field that many of us have been involved in as much. However, the reality is we've always lived in places, and buildings are really a critical part of telling everyone's story. And so to the extent that we can hold on to some of those existing historical structures, that really does a lot to create a sense of place in a community. So the image here that you'll see is, of course, of the Page Woodson development just east of us here at 6th and High. And this development, you know, this development has won the highest honor in national preservation in the country. This development won the Richard Driehaus Award at the National Trust for Historic Preservation's conference in San Francisco last fall. And, you know, this is a place that now provides a housing opportunity. So it is an example of adaptive reuse. I think, you know, one of the things to remember about historic preservation is it does not mean that we have to be stuck in the past. We can use those assets, we can retain that character, and we can create adaptive reuse that feeds what our purposes and our needs and our goals are for today as well as for the future. Oh, I guess I should also say, I'm sorry, that historic preservation, and I am not nearly the expert in this particular field. We work very closely with the State Historic Preservation Office, which is the entity for the state that manages both the state and national federal historic tax credits, based on, you know, both just cost savings, when you're reusing materials rather than having to bring in everything new, as well as the availability of those historic tax credits. Historic preservation projects really can be a good entry point for folks looking to get in the game in terms of cost effectiveness. The next thing I want to talk about briefly is design character. And so, when we can save old buildings, that's great. The reality is we can't do anything about the buildings that are already gone. But what we can do is develop in a way that is respectful of the design character that exists in a community. And so the images that are here are actually taken from the design book that gives guidance for any projects that are built on Okura properties that are available. And it's really easy to feel like design standards are a restriction, but I would offer that the opportunity again is really to look at it as this design book is really interesting to me. I had no idea how long it would be, but I also had no idea how much of a history lesson would be built in, right? It actually goes into a lot of detail about the developers who created these communities, about kind of the timeline, what was happening in terms of transportation that caused people to build houses with certain features, how they're oriented to the street, how folks access them, how folks move around the community. And so really there are so many interesting features to consider. And the reality is, older buildings were built at a time when we didn't all use cars to get everywhere. And so an added benefit of retaining that design character of historic buildings is that it also improves walkability, right? It also creates spaces that harken back to the times when we were more neighborly. It does, it really has some interesting positive side effects. And so, and ultimately the goal is to create new development, again, that's respectful of and helps to tell the story right in line with, that isn't in harmony with existing structures, as opposed to creating discord. So public art is another opportunity as you are thinking about new development projects. One question that you can ask yourself is, how can this real estate be a canvas for creativity? What are ways that maybe you can partner with artists or community groups to use the sides of buildings, or to put something out in a lawn or in a courtyard that is, again, another way visually to communicate the community's history and values and cultural aesthetic. Public art is one of those things that really has been a hot topic in the world of placemaking, and oftentimes what the public art looks like says a lot about who is there, or who is coming, or who is really in control of the situation. And to take the opportunity to create imagery that reflects the aesthetic and the people that are there is really a powerful silent opportunity, right? It kind of communicates something about, again, that self-determination piece. So the last area I'll speak quickly about is cultural programming. And Ms. Arnold spoke about the Charlie Christian Festival. We have the NEOKC Festival coming up. There are some really great examples of programming, public programming that happen already in our community that really celebrate those cultural legacies, and we could use more of that. We could use a whole annual calendar of celebrations and events and opportunities to come together to celebrate our history and our culture. I also believe that we have to think beyond the celebration to really get to the place where placemaking is improving communities for existing residents. And so the festivals are great and they're important and they absolutely can be major economic drivers. And what are ways that we can think about arts and culture as solutions for some of the challenges that we face in our community? And so this image is actually from a project called the Ash Project, happened on the south side of Chicago. I spent 7 years living there. And it's a program that really was about workforce development, highlighting the design and kind of fine craft skills and creating opportunities for folks to be employable or to be entrepreneurs based on that skill development. And so again, you know, we think about arts and culture, like murals is kind of low-hanging fruit, but what are ways that we can think more deeply about how we can integrate arts and culture into some of the broader challenges and actually help us solve problems? Again, you know, whether that's public safety, workforce development, education, health, what are ways that we can really think about in the process of all of our broader community development work, how can arts and culture be employed? And not that developers are gonna take on the programming aspect of that, but the opportunity is who can you partner with? What are the schools? What are the community organizations? What are the nonprofits? What are the, you know, whatever entity that is, who is it that you can partner with that might bring a solution like this? And then what are the spaces that they need to make it happen? What are the spaces that will allow for those activities to occur? Okay, so I'm gonna try to wrap it up. I did wanna share a few extra resources. These are 3 examples of national publications that are available for free online. The first is published by the National Endowment for the Arts. So they did a white paper like in 2010, which is where that first definition came from. This is much more recently released in the last year. It's actually the longest document pictured here, but it's a great resource, not the kind of thing you have to read cover to cover, but it really shares lots of great examples of creative placemaking projects from across the country and essays from thought leaders on that topic. The middle resource is developed by an organization called Springboard for the Arts, and that is specifically a guide developed for business owners and business districts to look at ways that they can partner with artists. It actually includes some really just basic actionable tools like contracts for hiring an artist, or thinking through the process of project development to do a project. And then the final piece is actually from the American Planning Association. They commissioned a series of 5 papers about the role of arts and culture in the field of planning. And this piece here, I believe it's the 3rd or 4th paper, but really looks at community character and how arts and culture can help define that. And then again, locally, I can do the work I do without working very closely with partners here. With the city of Oklahoma City, I know I didn't know before I started in my position all of the different things that happen in the planning department, historic preservation, as well as the Arts and Culture Office. There is a whole process with the city of Oklahoma City in terms of public art and getting that permitted and approved with the Arts Commission. But there's a lot happening in the planning department other than zoning. And so, those are folks to really get to know well. Again, the State Historic Preservation Office manages the historic tax credit programs, and there are both state and federal tax credits available for historic rehab projects. They're going to be your best resource to learn more about that. And then the agency that I work for is the Oklahoma Arts Council. We provide grant funding for arts and cultural programming that happens all across the state. We do so for schools, nonprofits, units of city, county, or tribal government. Really, there are lots of opportunities, whether you're looking to create hands-on learning opportunities or larger audience-based kind of festivals, exhibitions, performances. There could be opportunities for that. I want to invite you all to join us to continue this conversation. Next week, I will be moderating a conversation between nationally renowned artist Rick Lowe from the 3rd Ward of Houston, between Rick and Hans Butzer, who is the Dean of the School of Architecture at OU. This conversation will happen at Paige Woodson Auditorium next week from 10 to 12:30. It's the final installment of the Northeast Oklahoma City Storytelling Project, which has been going on all month. Actually, there are folks over there right now recording local community stories and doing some digital storytelling workshops. Thank you.
Got any questions? They're probably like, nah.
It's fine. Just take the information and call me.
No, thank you very, very much. So we are at that point where it's time to eat. So I know you all want to get up and stretch your legs. So if you don't know, the men's restroom is on this side of the hallway. I'm happy about that.